What's going on, guys? Welcome back to day 13 of the 31 Days of Value. Thanks for hanging with me. I hope this has been a good experience for you. I hope it's helping shift your mindset. I hope it's helping you want to grow your business beyond what you were going to do before you met me, before we embarked on this journey here. So today I want to talk to you about creating a business that new hires celebrate when they get the opportunity. And I don't think you understand the impact that you have as a business owner if you don't care about this element of the business. And in your busyness, I understand that, new hires are like a commodity, but, one of the coolest things about business is creating opportunity for people. And I think one of the things about creating opportunity for people is how this industry that we're in, the standard is just so low. And man, I was watching some video somewhere and I heard some really good advice. And it was to treat applicants as in the same way that we treat leads, right? Treat good applicants the same way that we treat good leads. And that kind of struck me because I hadn't really thought of it like that. I kind of felt like, hey, you're applying to work for us, and that led me to be a little lazy when it came to, getting in touch with someone for that interview, or, if I'm busy, kind of just putting it on the back burner, not really like creating a really good system to onboard the new hires. Think of it like this, think of this. You have a new hire that gets hired by your company, and, maybe you met them in a paint store, or maybe you met them somewhere, and this new hire is told that, hey, you know what? You're going to make $18 an hour and you're going to be able to work with us and, just show up to work on a Monday. Okay. Well, they don't hear anything from you on that over the weekend. And, the very last minute, they get the address through a text message and they show up Monday and nothing special was done. It's like, okay, just show up and start working. And, for most people, they're going to be okay with that because it's a job. But I challenge you in every area of your business to create, some magic moments, because first impressions are everything. I know we talked a lot about leads and creating first impressions with leads, but I want to encourage you to create first impressions with new hires. And it's really important that when, someone applies to work for you and, whatever your process is for vetting those individuals, if they make it through that process, they should receive some sort of reward that's not just the job, but a really nice onboarding experience, a really nice process in place. One thing that we do when, someone starts with us is I always have the supervisor there on the first day. But before that, I actually always make sure that he has the supervisor's number. So we have a little template that we send out. It says, hey, Joe, congrats on your first day tomorrow. You'll be at this address. Your crew leader is Bo. Your supervisor is Julio. Here's his phone number. If you need anything, he'll be meeting you in the morning with T-shirts and walk you through, the project. That's a very low effort thing. And I know some of you guys are owner operators, so this might be something you do as a business owner, but it also could easily be something you don't do as a business owner because you're very busy. So for me, I like creating that magic for the new hire because momentum with a new hire is very important. And to kind of illustrate that, think about an applicant that applied for your business 6 months ago, and think about how excited you are to reach out to an applicant that applied 6 months ago. And generally speaking, you're probably not that excited, and you understand this concept because momentum matters, right? I want the guy that's moving into town that wants the new job because he needs to provide for his family and he needs to get established in a new community or a new city. I want the guy that is tired of being mistreated at his previous job and applies because he's at his wit's end and he wants a new place to work, right? I don't want the guy that's sitting on the couch, and I don't want someone that didn't intentionally seek us out. And that momentum cycle is very similar to how you would treat a lead, right? When you get that inquiry, man, like I'll tell you this, because of the system that I have set up, and if you're a Drip Jobs user, by the way, we have the Drip Jobs Academy, and the Drip Jobs Academy has a hiring masterclass in it that will teach you how to set up this entire process. But the reason you can't do that is the same reason some of us struggle with following up with leads, and that is because we don't have a good system in place. And what's amazing is I built a system that allows me to easily see applications that come in Slack. Okay, so this is how it works. They apply on Indeed, they fill out the form, it gets submitted to me in Slack, and it says Painter Applications. And I'm able to look at the questionnaire they fill out in real time. And if something stands out to me, if I look at the questionnaire and I can tell that this is a person of character, they spent more time than the average individual on filling it out, they identified 2 references, they highlighted an area of weakness, they highlighted a time where they made a mistake, they elaborated on, all sorts of, different aspects of their expertise. Like I can see that in real time, and they come in every day. And if someone stands out to me, I immediately forward that to my office admin, and that at that point she's instructed to reach out and do a phone interview. So think about how cool that is from the applicant's perspective. They apply for a job and they immediately get a phone call, and that sets the tone for the relationship. These are people that I want to buy in. I want them to work for me. Like I want them to stay with my company, because if I have great team members that really value the culture in the company, they're going to go above and beyond. The old saying is, I don't want your hands, I want your heart. So that phone interview happens initially, and generally speaking, you'll hear them say, wow, that was fast. Like, cool. Like, thanks for treating me well is what resonates to me, right? I want our company to pursue good people. So, and that's really a result of having a good system in place. Then from that point, once that phone interview happens, it's scored, it's graded. And sometimes we just do the heart test. Hey, how did it feel? Who stood out to you? Who made you feel comfortable? And at that point, that gets passed on to Julio for an in-person interview. And at that point, there's checks and balances there. But setting expectations, structure, I'll tell you a story. When I was 17 years old, I was in high school, and I was working as a busboy at a country club, and I was sick. The 16 was my first job. I turned 17, and I was making $7.25 an hour, and it was a part-time job. I was still in school, extremely grateful, but a friend of mine in school was telling me how she was making really good money at this sushi restaurant. And I heard about this opportunity, and she said, hey, I know you're a hard worker. I could probably see about getting you a job. And I was really excited because this was a huge opportunity. I mean, she was making $100 a night, and I was like, yes, please. I would love an opportunity. And so she's like, okay, so just drive there, tell them I sent you, and fill out an application. So it was about 30 minutes from my house. So I drove, and I went in there and said, hey, can I have an application? And the lady just hands me a menu, and it was a sushi menu. And I've never eaten sushi before that day ever. So she's like, here, take this, study the menu. When you know the menu, come back. And I called my friend. And I said, hey, is this what you did? She's like, yeah. You have to take the menu test, right? Oh, okay. Well, that's a pretty big deal, because it's like a pamphlet of very small items listed, Masago, and man, a lot of this stuff's coming back to me, like salmon roe and the fish eggs. And I needed to know every ingredient inside of that sushi roll. And again, if I was a sushi fan, this probably would have been a lot easier. But I didn't know what sushi was. So I'm like, okay, well, I really need this job. And I studied my tail off, right? So I'm in my senior year of high school. I had no college plans, no good ones anyway. So I'm like, man, this is my opportunity. I need to make money. So every day I'm doing flashcards and I'm studying my tail off for this job. And I It took me about 2 weeks to really know. I knew every element of that menu. I studied so hard. I prepared so hard. And I called. I told her I was ready for the interview. She sits in front of me. She says, okay, what's in this role? What's in this role? What's in this role? What's in this role? And I rattle them off, right? I mean, talk about intimidation, right? This Chinese lady's just grilling me. And I passed it and I got the job. And let me tell you something. There's a really good feeling when you're working somewhere where it feels like you earned the opportunity and you hold it in a different regard than if you were just handed the opportunity. So I would question, what does the barrier to entry look like in your business? How much friction is there in the hiring process? Do you hire in a way where you're desperate, or do you hire and pursue your applicants with confidence? I'm not saying you need to just hand people opportunity. I'm saying you want to handle applicants as if they're your best possible. I mean, you look at some of the big companies. Look how they handle recruiting. You got Mark Zuckerberg offering people $100 million, to build AI stuff, right? People is the product. So pursue your great applicants with intent, but also have a structured process all the way up into the point that they show up on the first day, right? And let's go through it. I'm just going to run through it real quick, okay? So first thing is we need that hiring system. You need the ads running. You need a form. You need that form information needs to send to you in an easy way. I don't ever check Indeed. I never go to Indeed.com to look at resumes. Very rarely will I do that. I only want people that fill out my form. I have an autoresponder set up in Indeed that sends them a link to fill out the form as soon as they apply. So even in that moment, they apply and it says, "Hi, Joe. Thanks for applying. If you want to move forward with next steps, please fill out this form." And then you have whoever fills out that form is obviously qualified. And then the content of that form determines whether or not they get a phone interview. And that phone interview happens fast, within an hour of a really good application, right? Speed to applicant is an important concept. I might even name this episode Speed to Applicant, okay? From there, got the phone interview. Have you trained someone to do phone interviews? Why are you doing them, right? Phone interview has a transcript. It's recorded. So we actually link the phone interview recording under the thread inside of Slack. So I can click it and listen to it because I want to be involved. And then from there, we have an in-person interview. That in-person interview is where they meet the supervisor, Julio. He's going to be the one who actually meets and works with this individual. I'm not. So it's important for him to get to know them and do the vibe check, right? So then he does the in-person interview. And then from there, what does it look like? What does the process look like when you hire somebody? Okay, here's next steps. You're going to get your background check notification. It's going to come in today. If you pass the background check, we'll notify you. And then you're going to get onboarded with our payroll company, Gusto. Now, some of you guys still don't have Gusto or something similar. And, to be honest, that's elementary. That's, not only is it just for you to be in compliance, but it's very important because they get their own app. They get an app on their phone that shows them their hours. It shows them their pay stub. They can access it. It actually allows them to create like a savings account. This makes your really small company feel really big in the eyes of an applicant, which creates the perception that your company is worth sticking around for, okay? So important. These steps are so vital. And then, of course, when they get the notification, a structured message giving them the phone number of the supervisor if there's an issue and the name of the customer for the first job, and then making sure that there's a good entry point. You're introducing them to the team. How embarrassing is it to send a new employee to a job to meet other employees and they have no clue who he is? They say, "Hey, you got hired today? Cool. All right, yeah, go prep that." No, it's worth it. Hey, this is Sam. Sam, this is Joe. Joe, this is Steve. Bring some coffee, get everyone in a circle and say, "Look, man, this is your team now. He's really good at this. This guy's good at that. He's awesome at this." And you create the culture. You're a facilitator of that. So it's worth it to pursue creating a really good perception about your business, and first impressions matter. Not only do first impressions matter, but it allows that momentum to not stop from the moment they had the idea that they wanted to apply beyond the first day of them actually working with you. So there's no doubt, I always say this, I'm going to end with this. I always want to create, this happened actually to me as a kid. My dad got a job at this big painting company in town when we first moved to Florida. And he got the job, man. And, we struggled a lot. One day I'll tell you the story if you care. But there was always a lot of struggle, scarcity, finances. It just sucked, right, growing up. I remember, $20 was, impossible to come across to go to the movies with my friends. We used to have to get food from churches. And, again, electric being shut off. I've said this a couple times. So, as a kid, I remember, man, my dad got the job, and he got the job as the fourth man on a crew of 4, where he was riding in the back of the van. But I just remember the feeling of relief around the dinner table when he got the job. That was awesome for me, as the kid, because it sounded like a great opportunity, man. The way he described it, how professional it was, and how he was going to get a pay stub, and how he was going to, work on this in this, established company. And the interview process was really professional. And I just remember as a kid, I was yes, all right, man, this is cool. This is new. This is new energy in my house. This wasn't this guy's just having me come paint for a few days. Dude, don't you understand how much impact you could be making? And it just is a couple systems and a little bit of care sprinkled on them, right? So important, man. Anyway, day 13, we're rocking and rolling. I'm not slowing down. We're going to hit all 31 days, and we're going to hit it hard. Share this with a friend. Freaking let me get a review or something, please, so more people can find this podcast. I'm a little light on reviews. If you've gotten any value, hit the 5-star for me, please. And I just want to thank you for listening to this. God bless you and your journey. We'll see you tomorrow.